ready to just challenge the police and challenge the army. We see it with what's going on in Israel right now, with all these rockets and bombs that are landing in southern Israel. When Gush Katif was being emptied out of the Jews, we were the ones who fought so desperately against it, and we predicted that rockets were going to land in Ashkelon and destroy the electrical grid there that supplies, I think, 2/3 of Israel with their electricity. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know these things. And obviously, we're not privy to secret papers and information, but just anyone who's willing to speak the truth with a little common sense, you can see. Well, first of all, I would recommend that they go to our website, which is a simple one to find. It's www.afsi.org, afsi.org, and they'll be able to see reports about our past trips, and they can look at the itinerary for our upcoming trip. And all they have to do is call me. But call me quickly, because we're ready to close reservations and be with us on this next trip, which is going to be so exciting. Every single trip is so memorable. And so I do suggest that they go to the website, afc.org, check out past reports, look at our future report, our upcoming trip itinerary, and see just how very, very special the AFC Hillsborough missions are. Our pleasure, my pleasure, Zev. Thank you so much. L'hatzlacha. Shalom. Okay.
Well, what did he ask you?
He didn't ask me very much. He really let me talk quite a bit, and just he asked me to tell the listeners about AFSI, that what kind of an organization we are. And of course, it's so easy for me to talk about AFSI because we are unique. We are unique in the fact that we have never wavered from our mandate for a whole Israel Shlema. From the very beginning, Oslo was created, everybody was so excited, peace, peace. We said this is a salami method. This is not a shalom. This is salami. And we said this is not peace, this is P-I-E-C-E. This is pieces, to go after Israel in a diplomatic way rather than militarily, because the Arabs had lost 5 wars, and militarily they couldn't possibly be successful. So they discovered that they could do it diplomatically. And we knew that. And any honest person would know that. Any honest person would see what a trap this was. This was actually, somebody asked me about it before I even had studied the situation. And my initial reaction was, this is the Trojan horse. Find a way to slip into the city and destroy it. And this is what they've been doing. And tragically, because Israel is a democracy and tries so hard to be tolerant and democratic towards all its people and so on, so just because of that, and it's happening here in America too, because we are so concerned with religious freedom and freedom of speech and all these freedoms, which are so important to us, they work against us when our enemy learns how to utilize them in order to weaken us and undermine us. And that's why we have all these problems now with Muslims. Sharia law. Sharia law is coming into America. We have 20 states that have programs that accept Sharia law. This is it's unheard of, but it's happening.
What is this protest you're doing tomorrow evening? Tomorrow evening outside of Shul?
Well, Wednesday evening, the 14th of March, we have a program outside the Jewish Community Center. It's the JCC on 76th Street and Amsterdam Avenue.
In Manhattan.
In Manhattan. And the reason is that this is, even though it's a wonderful JCC in so many respects, it serves the children and it serves the elderly, it has a wonderful phys ed program and all of that, but the board members are ultra-liberal. And we've had to protest there in the past against the fact that they show the other Israel Film Festival, which means that it's not the Israeli Film Festival, but the
Anti-Zionist?
but the anti-Zionist film festival.
And they show it at a Jewish community center.
Absolutely, and we had to protest against that. Then we have, so now we're protesting against the fact that there's a program scheduled for Wednesday night with Rabbi Mark Schneier, who has promoted this twinning program of
What does that mean, twinning?
Twinning mosques with synagogues. And
Like a sister program?
exactly. And by twinning them, we're supposed to like understand each other and everybody comes together and so on, except the Jews are always, of course, duped by these programs. Well, Charles Jacobs, who's done a lot of work on all these issues, wrote something called Buffaloed in Buffalo, because Schneier had gone along with twinning a synagogue in Buffalo with an imam and a mosque that supposedly was very friendly and open, except that when the statements were read in Arabic, not in English, we discovered that he really is out for the destruction of Israel, the destruction of Jerusalem, the whole thing is a fraud. And this is, we know this. This is just common sense that, yes, there are good Muslims. There's no question about it. And I was at police headquarters a week ago Monday, demonstrating with some wonderful Muslims on behalf of the NYPD. And
What were they doing? What was the controversy?
well, the NYPD is being attacked. That's the New York Police Department, is being attacked for conducting a surveillance program of Muslims in their mosques or in their schools or in their public meeting places.
They're monitoring
Observing, yes.
for radical activities.
Yes, and the police department, for all we know, does this throughout the community, and not just Muslims. Maybe they oversee all kinds of groups.
About a Christian crazy anti-abortionist.
Right. I mean, I don't. We're not privy to their inner workings. But it was discovered that they showed a film called The Third Jihad to their offices, which was created by
Copying from Obsession.
yes, and
Yeah.
which was created by this fellow. I think his name is Zudi Jasser.
Yeah.
And he was at this demonstration at the NYPD headquarters a week ago Monday, and he and others like him who welcome the surveillance because they have nothing to hide. Come into my mosque, come into my school, come into my meetings and see that we are Muslims who appreciate the freedoms offered to us in America.
Not trying to Islamize the country.
Right. They're perfectly actually they remind us of what the Quran is supposed to say about, supposedly says about how Muslims are supposed to act when they are in foreign countries, that they have to be subservient to that rule of law, that Sharia law and Muslim rule of law has to take second place to the prevailing law. But So Jasser, he and his colleagues were there supporting that point of view, supporting the NYPD, and I was there with other AFSI members also supporting it. And we had big posters and placards, and lots of pictures were taken of us, and all we said was thank you to the NYPD and to Commissioner Kelly for protecting us from jihadi terror.
In ways that the FBI doesn't.
Probably not, right. And look, it's been over 10 years since 9/11, and thank God we haven't had a terror attack again in New York City, which is really
when we haven't had a major one.
A prime target. Well, there were many attempts. Attempts, and they were thwarted. So, in any case, we have so many issues that are coming at us from all sides, which have to do with protecting us, protecting Israel, protecting America from the Islamic goal of taking over the Western world. And we're very much aware of that. And
so Mark Schneier, what's he doing?
Mark Schneier has this euphoric idea about
utopian
idea of how all we need to do is talk to people. It's just like President Obama. He's going to talk to the Iranians. They're so rational. Ahmadinejad is so rational.
He's going to talk them out of their apocalypticness.
Exactly. All we have to do is extend a friendly hand. Once Obama came into office and began extending that friendly hand, and the whole Middle East understood that America was not going to come after any wrongdoers.
Right.
So, we know what's happened throughout the Middle East in every country. The spring has sprung, but it's really our winter, not spring.
And certainly all around the Israelis. So what's going to happen at this JCC tomorrow night? What's Schneier doing?
Well, Schneier is going to be inside with Chelsea Clinton as moderator and Russell Simmons, and I don't know what his job is.
Who's Chelsea Clinton married to?
I don't remember.
She married a Jewish guy, didn't she?
She did, yes.
Her mother's involved with the Muslim Sisterhood daughter.
Exactly. Yeah, she
Abedin, Huma Abedin.
Wiener's wife is Hillary Clinton's top assistant or something. Yes. So, in any case, we're going to be out there distributing literature about the mistakes of this twinning program, about the fact that there's reason to be concerned about Islam. We're not painting everyone with the same brush, but there definitely are terrorists out there trying to hurt us. And the fact that the NYPD has to be supported. Eric Holder, who is our Attorney General and one of the Obama appointees, is considering investigating the NYPD because of their bias against the Muslims, just as Eric Holder is objecting to the fact that voters in Texas might have to show an ID card, because, yes, we show ID cards to get into the airports, and we show ID cards to get into museums and into other places, but for voting, there cannot be any IDs. You have to, you just have to trust that the person is who he says he is.
So chances are wherever Eric Holder's doing an investigation, like Sheriff Arpaio investigating the birth certificate ineligibility, if Holder's there's a chance that there's something good going on that they're trying to rout out. Exactly.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So are you organizing this single-handedly, this demonstration?
No, I am, AFSI has an office. You see, we're one room, but it's an office. So we have telephones, we have computers, and so on. We have fax machines. And
you have donuts.
Donuts and Xerox machines. So we end up being the address. Where a lot of the groups, it's the grassroots groups that take a position on this. So we don't have the Conference of Presidents, major organizations, 52 major organizations. No, they're not there to help us, not at all.
Will any of them even be there?
Oh, of course not. No, they're probably supporting what Schneier is doing. But we are grassroots, so, since we actually have an office and so on, so we become the address, and we have JCC Watch, we have I call them Harikari. It's actually the Human Rights Coalition Against Radical Islam. So it's the HRCARI are the letters, and I call them the Harry Carey group. We have a lot of Hindus and a lot of Muslims who are in that group who are fighting radical Islam. And so they're with us, and many others who are sort of individuals who just spend a lot of their time working on these issues. So, we are a coalition of people, but we never get the huge crowds that the conference could pull out, because we don't have that reach. However, we're there. We make our statement, and we don't get hung up about how many people are going to show up.
But it does say something about the conviction of the Jewish community when they don't show up in the face of something, whether it's this or any other anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic, pro-Palestinian, pro-Iranian. These things happen in New York all the time. How is the turnout in proportionate to the size of the community?
Very poor. It's a very, very poor turnout, very disproportionate. I think one of the reasons might be that many of our Jews are confused. At one point, it was very clear the New York turnout for Obama, the Democrats, they couldn't consider voting Republican because, I'm a Democrat. So regardless of who the candidate is, he gets the support. Obama came in like a rock star, and we had all our Jews rushing to embrace him. I think now they're thinking twice. They're not so certain that was the right decision. The New York Times, which has been the Bible for so many liberal Jews, is now being discredited a bit, losing a lot of their subscribers. And I think that they're not certain about what the truth is. So I think because of this, they're hesitant to come out. They go to events that they think are Jewish events if they want to support them. Like tonight, there will be a few hundred people at the JCC.
Tonight or tomorrow?
Wednesday night at the JCC. There will be a few hundred people because I understand the whole event has been sold out, because they really they think that, okay, they're supporting something that has to do with Jewish interest, just like they go to the 92nd Street Y, supporting something that they think is strength for Jews. However, these liberal organizations undermine our best interests, and the Jews who aren't certain about what's going on, as you and I are, because we study it a lot. We study it and we know it, and we also, we trust our instincts now because we've had a lot of experience with it. These Jews don't have that foundation. They don't know their history. They don't know our entitlement to the land. There's a book here that Eli Hertz put together. This land is my land. The mandate for Palestine, the legal aspects of Jewish rights. We legally are entitled to this land. And yet you hear Jews talking about, well, the poor Palestinians, they need their land. They have rights
illegal
also?
Settlements.
Illegal. Well, all that language just makes us insane. And then, this is Mark Langfan's map, which was with us in Nashville. And Mark has a marvelous website, marklangfan.com. And, this map, which I have in supersize,
shows Israel's vulnerability to a Palestinian state.
100%. I went to the 92nd Street Y when Shimon Peres was in conversation with one of the very, very well-known newscasters. And Shimon Peres over and over again supported the two-state solution. And so I had these postcards with me, and as people exited, I handed them these postcards. I had a couple of hundred. I handed them all out. I said, this is what a two-state solution will look like. this is it. Israel under fire.
Israeli air bases within rocket range.
Yes, and actually, I think I read something about Ben Gurion Airport moving some of their facilities or something inland because they're afraid that they're in target range. It's reached a point of tremendous danger, I think, that Israel is in today, and much of it has been brought on by their own inability to say the things that we say, which is, be strong, be a Mordechai. Don't grovel before your enemies. Stand tall, stand strong, say what has to be said, go to the leaders and tell them the truth, that there are people who are trying to kill you. And trust in Hashem and believe that this is going to be resolved properly. But instead, there's so much appeasement and groveling and giving away and all of this.
You think the congregations are leading their rabbis, or you think the rabbis are leading the congregations towards this pacifism?
I'm very disappointed in the rabbis. Very, very, very disappointed in the rabbis. Here in Manhattan, we are very fortunate in that we're able to walk on a Shabbat to half a dozen different synagogues that are just within easy reach. And it's so rare. It's so rare for us to come across any rabbi who even makes mention of Israel. In fact, somebody just mentioned today that at one of the local synagogues on the Upper West Side where they're interviewing for a new rabbi, can you imagine a rabbi coming to sort of apply for a job? So he's going to put his best foot forward. Yeah. And here with, a weekend when hundreds of rockets are landing on Israel, 1 million Israelis are in shelters. He had no comment about that. It's like, he used a canned speech. He used a canned sermon having to do with the Torah portion, it's very important to bring in the Torah portion, because I've discovered the Torah portion always relates to what's going on.
What denomination was the shul?
It was an Orthodox synagogue.
An Orthodox synagogue without a strongly Zionistic rabbi.
And we only go to Orthodox synagogues because we enjoy the services and we like the cantors. We have some wonderful cantors in the New York synagogue, so we enjoy their cantorial presentation in the service. But the rabbis are always disappointing. We have one or two in New York who speak out.
You know them by name?
Of course. Yeah, Rabbi Alan Schwartz up at Ohav Tzedek. He's probably the only one who's really on our side, really outspoken here in New York. Rabbi Przansky in Teaneck, New Jersey is another one, very outspoken, and just a treat to hear. But
Rabbi David Al-Ghazi?
Probably, yes. Al-Ghazi probably is too, but I've never been to his synagogue in Queens. I don't know it personally, but I know he's come to all of our events and he speaks out at all our events. What he does from his pulpit, I don't know. In fact, I have to call him to invite him to come and speak with us on Wednesday evening.
Which rabbis would you like to see a little better Zionism from?
Oh, I don't want to really mention their names because it's just, it's the New York area rabbis and they know who they are and it's disappointing.
To put them on notice, that there's someone noticing that they're not strong enough on behalf of B'nai Yisrael.
What can I say? I don't want to name them because
you can name the shuls.
I don't want to offend them, but they're the Midtown Manhattan synagogues.
Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue. What else is
East
Midtown?
Side, West Side, right. Right.
Millinery shul is good.
The Millinery synagogue I never get to. It's way downtown. I'm just talking about like the area that I can reach personally. I'm
Karlbach shul is good. Rabbi Naftali Citron.
I know Rabbi Citron very well, yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. What do you think of the legacy of Rav Meir Kahana, who comes from New York? Do you think his legacy still resonates with the New York Jewry?
It resonates with some of us. Rabbi Kahana was a very proud Jew. He was thrown out of the Knesset because he spoke the truth too loudly, and he was killed, murdered
Here in Manhattan.
In Manhattan, under suspicious circumstances. Tragically, his son, Benjamin Kahana, who I knew in Israel, and his wife. Actually, I had stayed in Benjamin's home once at Kfar Tapuach because my son was a good friend of Benjamin's, and we were there for a Shabbat in Kfar Tapuach, and the house, was filled with pictures of Meir Kahana and so on, and it was a very special experience. And I know when Benjamin started coming here to America to give talks, and his English was a little rough, but he kept doing it, and he got better and better. And he was, he would have carried on in his father's footsteps, but he was killed. And
also under suspicious circumstances.
Yes.
You think the government was in on it? May have been.
I don't know, Scott. There are so many conspiracy theories and things like that, and I think many of the theories have merit to them, but I've never, really studied the accusations deeply enough and seriously enough to have an opinion. But there's the possibilities are tucked away in the back of my mind, and when the subjects come up, it brings a lot of sadness. Brings a lot of sadness to mind because these were always extraordinary people who might have had a huge impact on the direction that Israel is going in, and they're removed.
As the author of Why Be Jewish, and as arguably one of the greatest rabbis of the 20th century, how is Rabbi Meir Kahana's legacy being kept alive in New York, or the New York area?
Well, there are a number of people who support his ideology and disseminate his books and so on. It's a small group. There aren't that many. I believe that every year there is a memorial service for Kahana that's held at one of the synagogues in Brooklyn. I know in past years I did attend those memorial services. I remember Benjamin Kahana speaking at one of them before he was killed. But I haven't gone recently, and I don't know whether it's because they've been held. I think sometimes they coincide with our trips, and I'm in Israel at the time.
And also, doesn't it coincide with Kristallnacht?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, November. Yeah, and that's what it is, yes, because November we're usually in Israel, because the AFSI trips coincide with the Shabbat Chayei Sarah, when it is read in Hebron. We are in Hebron at the time, and with thousands of people who go to Hebron at that time for that particular Shabbat, and it's something very spiritual and very beautiful to be in. It's one of the few times in the year when the Jews get the entire Marat HaMachpelah, the whole cave of the patriarchs. We're not just in a little courtyard covered with a tarpaulin. You know the situation in the Marat HaMachpelah, that it's divided.
Explain it for those who don't know.
Well, it's divided into the part that the Arabs use and the part that the Jews use. The Arabs were given the great big Isaac Hall, and they were given all these other very large spaces, indoor, covered with normal ceilings and floors and so on. The Jews have a courtyard. They have a courtyard which is blazing hot in summer, very cold in winter. This particular winter, Israel had a very rough winter. The tarpaulin was torn off. Snow, there was snow in Hebron. They got snow inside the area that is used as the Beit HaMidrash, and so the floors, the seating area, the books, everything was exposed to the elements. So it was very harsh. Now, actually, AFSI, to create a sort of a living memorial to our chairman, Herbert Zweibon, who passed away a year ago, January, Zichron Levracha, who had a special spot for Hebron. I had spoken to David Wilder, the spokesman for the Hebron community, and I said, David, AFSI wants to have a living memory for Herb. So how about if we donate a roof for the courtyard area, so that there could be protection, and then you wouldn't have to worry about rain and snow and so on. And he said to me, getting the money for this roof is no problem. We have that. What we don't have is the permission from the Israeli government to enclose the area. So, that's another thing that just brings tears to one's eyes, because these are our holy places. And one would suspect that if the government is not ready to put a permanent roof, or to allow not that they should pay for it, but that we should pay for a permanent roof over this courtyard, that they're ready to give it away to the Arabs. And now that the Arabs have bonded with the UNESCO, the infamous United Nations Educational, Social, Cultural Organization, which oversees all these holy things, now that the Arabs have bonded with them, so they're declaring the Marat HaMachpelah a Muslim holy place, off limits to Jews. The Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount, off limits to Jews. Kever Rachel, the grave of Rachel, off limits to Jews. This is a Muslim holy site. Years ago, when I was traveling around Israel, even before we did the AFSI Chizuk missions, my son was living in Israel. He lived there for 20 years, my oldest son. And he would take me to different places, to the burial places of Shimon HaTzadik and so on. And we went to them, and then I would always see the Arabic writing over the name of the holy rabbi. And I remember asking one of the guards once, and of course it's always a Muslim guard, and I asked one of the guards, I said, why is there this Arabic writing here? He says, well, this is a holy place for us too. So they had their agenda written years ago. This is to take over our holy places, to remove all trace of Jewish presence and heritage in Israel. That's why they dug out the Temple Mount, and they built this gigantic underground mosque there, and all our relics, all our wonderful places are thrown into the Kidron Valley in a garbage dump.
Is this done with the knowledge of the Olmert government?
Of course. It's just this is what I'm saying. If our leaders were Mordechai's, if our leaders were Judah Maccabees, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in today. We would be a strong, proud country, and we would say, like Netanyahu said to Obama, we're a sovereign nation. We can make our own decisions. Which is true, but we don't act like a sovereign nation. Our leadership doesn't act that way. Our leadership is always deferring to America and to
it's the pressure.
Europe
it's the
and
pressure
so on.
that is being leveled on them.
Yes, there's pressure, but ours is a holy country. Israel is unique. It's not any other country. You look at the map. If you train your camera here, if you train your camera right on. Yeah, this was Israel and its neighbors. All right. So here you have all these Arab countries that are so gigantic, and I actually had to color in this part that is Israel because otherwise you wouldn't even see it. Now how do we exist, such a tiny country, surrounded by all these enemies? We exist because this is the promised land, because this is what God has promised to us. So why don't we act that way? It's not ours to give away. It's not ours to make bargains with. It belongs to Hashem. We should just have some backbone and pride and know who we are. Believe in ourselves.
But to the extent that Jews and Christians keep electing leaders like Barack Obama, who put a moral equivalency on Muslim grievances, however fabricated or contrived they may be.
Right.
To that extent.
We're it's really a painful situation that we're in, and I must say that the thing that enables me to continue working at this job, which could really like
Great on
turn one's mind off in a really difficult direction, is these trips to Israel that we take, because we go to give chizuk, to give strength.
Encouragement to who?
To the residents of Judea, Samaria, the former Gush Katif refugees, the people in Jerusalem and the threatened areas of Jerusalem.
And the north?
And of course the north, the south. We've been all the way down south, and then along the Egyptian border, Sderot, of course. We've gone up to the Golan and to the Galilee and so on. And I don't even want to begin to start to describe to you what we've seen there with the proliferation of the Arabs in the north. In the Galilee, unbelievable growth, and in the south, the Bedouin growth, out of control. So much thievery, so much plundering. The Israeli police, and the IDF, afraid to enter into these areas. Yeah. Absolutely. So, that's
Aside from crime, what threat do they pose to the stability of the Jewish state?
Well, they're a line where the Bedouins at one time were supporters of Israel and actually fought in the army and so on. Now they're really aligning themselves with the extremist groups and with Hamas and Hezbollah and all of this stuff. And so it's a very dangerous situation. Yeah. But we have, but anyway, because we go into these communities, we go to Chavat Gilad, and we go to Puach, and we go to Kidumim, and Alon Moreh, and Itamar, and Yitzhar. We dedicated a Torah scroll in Itamar in memory of the Fogels who were killed there. We actually helped to build a little synagogue in Givat Aryeh, which is a community that was started after the Fogels were massacred. The Jewish response is to start a new community. So up to Givat Aryeh, build a new community. We helped to build a little synagogue, brought our Torah scroll there, had an amazing Hachnasat Torah, just an amazing event. And the Israeli army went in and destroyed everything. They didn't destroy
all what you built.
Yes, they didn't destroy the Torah scroll. That was saved, and it's now being housed in Itamar. But the synagogue was destroyed, the Aron Kodesh was destroyed, the whole little community of tents and so on.
Why?
Why? Because a gesture for peace. This is sacrifices for peace. I know. I say it sarcastically. I hope everyone understands that when I say sacrifices for peace, I'm belittling and mocking these words, because obviously the Arabs are not interested in this little hilltop community and this little synagogue that was there. They're not interested in that. But they are encouraged when the army goes in and destroys Jewish holy places, a Jewish synagogue, Jewish community. They are encouraged that they can get away with anything, because if the army and the government can do that, then why shouldn't the Arabs be able to do it? I mean, it makes perfectly good sense.
Why shouldn't the Arabs be?
Yes, of course, of course. And today's report in Arutz Sheva, I think we spoke about it, that one of the journalists who was attacked, along with his wife, who was driving behind him, was attacked by rock throwers on a road that's, just within Israel proper. Those rocks thrown at the cars, can go right through the windshield, kill the driver, or cause him certainly to lose control of the car.
It would have hurt his daughter, wouldn't it?
Yes, and then if the Jew goes and pursues the Arab terrorist who is throwing the rocks, and even shoots in the air at him, so the Jew is the one who's brought into court. The Jew is the one who has to defend himself and justify his actions, and the Arab goes scot-free. Well, if you were a criminal, if you were a terrorist, and that was, those are the repercussions. I mean, why would you not hesitate to do even
because
more?
Because crime pays. The situation is set up to benefit the criminal,
yes,
and hurt the plaintiff.
Yeah.
And so the reporter is it's controversial because he's calling for vigilante justice now.
Right.
He's saying, in case you're in trouble,
Right.
get your friends,
Yeah.
and take care of matters. Don't call the police.
Right. However, of course, the Jews will feel the repercussions of any vigilante action that they take. There are Jews that have been banned from their homes in the Shomron that are...
Baruch Marzel.
How about Akiva HaKohen, who is... I happen to know his father-in-law. Not his father-in-law. Yossi Ben Aaron is the grandfather of Akiva's wife. So there's connection. But, these are all wonderful, good people, holy people who hold on to the land of Israel.
Pious.
Yes, yes. And they become
Vilified.
and targeted and banished from their homes and banished from their families and banished from their livelihood. Akiva was making, he had an income from the work that he was doing in his community. Now he's banished from that community. He's living somewhere in Yerushalayim.
All for doing